The United States has made a significant military move. Advanced F-35 Lightning II fighter jets have been deployed to Puerto Rico. This isn't a routine training exercise, it's a deliberate placement of some of America's most powerful military hardware. The jets landed at Muniz Air National Guard Base, located near San Juan. Their arrival was not announced with a lot of fanfare. Instead, it was a quiet but powerful statement. The presence of these jets on the island raises many questions. People are asking why these specific jets were sent and why they were sent now. It signals a shift in the strategic thinking of the Pentagon. This deployment is being watched closely around the world. Sending F-35s is different from sending older planes. These aircraft represent the cutting edge of American air power. They are designed for stealth, meaning they are very hard to detect on radar. The location, Puerto Rico, is also key. It places these assets right in the heart of the Caribbean, within striking distance of several key areas. For the people living in Puerto Rico, the sight of these jets is a powerful reminder of the island's strategic importance. It's a tangible sign that something is happening beyond the horizon, something that has prompted the U.S. government to position its most advanced chess pieces on the board. The timing of this deployment, in September of 2025, is critical. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. The focus of this tension is the nation of Venezuela. To fully grasp why these jets are there, we have to look south, towards Caracas, and understand the complex and troubled dynamic between the two nations. The relationship between the United States and Venezuela is at a low point. For years, the two countries have been locked in a state of political conflict and economic conflict. The U.S. does not recognize the government of Nicolas Maduro as legitimate. Washington has imposed heavy sanctions on Venezuela's oil industry and government officials. The goal of these sanctions was to pressure the Maduro government into holding free and fair elections. However, the government in Caracas has remained in power. It has accused the United States of trying to orchestrate a coup and of waging an economic war. Recently, the situation has become more complicated. Venezuela has strengthened its ties with other countries that have difficult relationships with the United States: Russia, China, Iran. There have been reports of these countries providing economic support, political support, and even military support. For the United States, this is a major concern. The presence of these global rivals in the Western Hemisphere is seen as a challenge to regional stability and to U.S. influence. Venezuela has also been accused of supporting armed groups and engaging in activities that destabilize its neighbors. This brings us back to the F-35s. The deployment is a form of what military planners call strategic messaging. It is a way for the United States to send a clear signal without firing a shot. The message is intended for multiple audiences. For Venezuela, it is a warning that the U.S. has overwhelming military superiority and is watching closely. For Russia, China, and Iran, it tells them that the U.S. will not allow its adversaries to operate freely in its backyard. And for U.S. allies in the region, it is a sign of reassurance that America stands ready to defend them. So, what exactly is an F-35 and why does it matter so much? The F-35 Lightning II is not just another fighter jet. It is a fifth-generation fighter, the most advanced category. Its most famous feature is stealth capability, built with special radar-absorbent materials, shaped to reduce radar return and be nearly invisible. That allows it to fly into heavily defended airspace undetected. It can detect other planes before they detect it. That gives the pilot a massive tactical advantage. But the F-35 is more than stealth. It's basically a flying supercomputer, packed with advanced sensors and networking systems. These systems collect battlefield data from the ground, from the air, and from space. The jet processes that data on board, then shares it in real time with other aircraft, with ships, and with ground forces. That makes it a command and control center in the sky. It amplifies the effectiveness of nearby military assets. The F-35 comes in three versions: F-35A, Air Force variant; F-35B, short takeoff, vertical landing; F-35C, carrier-capable variant. That versatility lets it deploy from small airfields or ships. It carries many weapons like air-to-air missiles, air-to-ground bombs, and other precision munitions in its weapons bay. It performs missions from dogfighting to precision strikes on the ground. It's a multi-role fighter. Jack of all trades, master of them all. Deploying F-35s is about what they represent. a major investment in tech and power. Placing these jets near Puerto Rico, close to Venezuela, is military diplomacy, speaking loudly while carrying a very big, very advanced stick. The question on everyone's mind is, why this deployment, and why now? Several factors have likely contributed to the timing of this move. One of the main drivers is the increase in provocative actions by Venezuela. This includes recent military exercises conducted near its borders. Russian forces, Iranian forces. These exercises are seen by Washington as a direct challenge. They are not just for training, they are a political statement. By hosting foreign military assets from U.S. adversaries, Venezuela is signaling that it is not isolated and has powerful friends. The U.S. deployment of F-35s is a direct counter-signal, a move to re-establish a visible American military presence. Another key reason is intelligence. The United States military and intelligence agencies are constantly gathering information. It is possible they have received new intelligence about Venezuela's military posture or intentions. This could include information about the movement of weapons, the construction of new military facilities, or agreements with foreign powers. If there is a belief that Venezuela is planning to take actions that could threaten regional stability or U.S. interests, a preemptive deployment like this serves as a powerful deterrent. Economic factors also play a role, particularly in the global energy market. Venezuela has one of the world's largest oil reserves. Any conflict or major instability in Venezuela could have a dramatic impact on oil prices worldwide. The F-35 deployment might be intended to deter any rash actions that could lead to a wider conflict, thereby protecting economic stability at home and abroad. Finally, there is the element of domestic politics. A show of strength on the international stage can sometimes be used to project a strong image at home. The deployment serves multiple purposes, both internationally and domestically, making it a complex and calculated maneuver. The arrival of F-35 jets has a direct and immediate impact on the people of Puerto Rico. First, there is the economic aspect. An increased military presence can bring some economic benefits. There is more spending on local goods and services to support the base and the personnel stationed there. Contracts may be awarded to local businesses for construction, maintenance, and supplies. For some, this is a welcome injection of money into the local economy. However, this economic activity is often concentrated around the military base. It also makes the local economy more dependent on military spending, which can be unpredictable. On the other hand, there are significant social and environmental concerns. The F-35 is a notoriously loud aircraft. The noise from frequent takeoffs, landings, and training flights can be a major disruption for communities living near the airbase. This noise pollution can affect quality of life, property values, and public health. There are also environmental concerns related to the storage of jet fuel, weapons, and other materials associated with an advanced airbase. Accidents or spills could have a lasting impact on the local environment, which is a major concern for an island that relies on its natural beauty for tourism. The deployment also places Puerto Rico in a difficult political position. As a U.S. territory, Puerto Rico does not have the same autonomy as a state. Its people are U.S. citizens, but they do not have voting representation in Congress. Decisions about military deployments on the island are made in Washington, D.C., often with little to no input from the local government or the people of Puerto Rico. This can create feelings of frustration and helplessness. It highlights the island's colonial status and can fuel the debate about its political future. Most importantly, the presence of these high-value military assets potentially turns Puerto Rico into a target. In the unlikely event of a direct conflict, the military bases on the island would be among the first places to be attacked. They find themselves on the front line of a geopolitical conflict they have no control over. The deployment, meant to project strength, also brings with it a tangible sense of risk and vulnerability. The deployment of F-35s to Puerto Rico sends ripples far beyond the island itself. It affects the Caribbean and Latin America. For countries that are United States allies like Colombia and Brazil, this move is likely seen as a welcome sign of American commitment. These nations have their own concerns about Venezuela's behavior. They may feel more secure knowing the United States has positioned powerful military assets nearby. It could embolden them to take a stronger stance against Venezuelan aggression and destabilizing activities. For other countries in the region, the reaction might be more mixed. Nations that have tried to maintain a neutral position or have friendly relations with Venezuela may view the United States move as an act of intimidation. They might worry it increases the risk of conflict and turns the Caribbean into an arena for great power competition. Leaders in these countries may feel pressured to choose a side, which could create new diplomatic tensions. The Caribbean has a long history of trying to remain a zone of peace, and a move like this is seen by some as a direct threat to that ideal. The deployment also has implications for the balance of power. It prompts a reaction from Venezuela and its allies. Venezuela might seek advanced weapons from Russia, China, or announce new military agreements. This can lead to an arms race in the region, where each side feels compelled to match the military buildup of the other. This cycle of escalation increases the chances of a miscalculation or an accident that could spiral into a real conflict. It makes the entire region less stable and more dangerous for everyone. Economically, the heightened tension can scare away investment and tourism. The perception of the Caribbean as a volatile and militarized zone can have a devastating impact on their economies. Cruise lines, airlines, and international businesses might reconsider their plans. The deployment, therefore, is not just a military issue. It has real-world economic consequences for millions who depend on a peaceful and stable environment. It's a stark reminder that geopolitical games have real-world costs. To understand today's tensions, we have to look back at the history between the United States and Venezuela. For much of the 20th century, the two countries had a relatively stable relationship, largely based on oil. Venezuela was a reliable supplier of oil to the United States, and American companies were heavily invested in the Venezuelan oil industry. However, this relationship began to change dramatically with the election of Hugo Chavez in 1998. Chavez launched what he called the Bolivarian Revolution, a socialist movement aimed at reducing poverty and inequality. He was also a fierce critic of United States foreign policy, which he called imperialist. Under Chavez, the Venezuelan government nationalized many industries, including parts of the oil sector that were controlled by United States companies. He used the country's oil wealth to fund social programs and to build alliances with other left-leaning governments in Latin America. He also developed close ties with United States adversaries like Cuba, Iran, and Russia. This shift caused a major rift with Washington. In 2002, there was a brief coup that removed Chavez from power. The United States government quickly recognized the new government. Chavez was restored to power 2 days later after massive popular protests. Chavez accused the United States of being behind the coup. After Chavez's death in 2013, his hand-picked successor, Nicolas Maduro, took power. The relationship with the United States deteriorated even further. Venezuela's economy, which was heavily dependent on high oil prices, went into a catastrophic collapse. This led to hyperinflation, widespread shortages of food and medicine, and a massive humanitarian crisis. The Maduro government blamed the crisis on United States sanctions and economic war. The United States blamed government corruption, mismanagement, and anti-democratic policies. The political crisis reached a boiling point in 2019. The United States recognized opposition leader Juan Guaido as the interim president. This long and bitter history has created the deeply polarized and dangerous situation that we see today. The F-35 deployment is just the latest move in this decades-long chess match. To understand this complex situation, it's important to look at it from both perspectives, without taking sides. From the perspective of the United States, the actions are about protecting national security and promoting regional stability. The United States government sees the Maduro regime as undemocratic and destabilizing. They point to the humanitarian crisis, the refugee outflow, alleged links to drug trafficking, and the growing military presence of adversaries. From this viewpoint, deploying F-35s is a prudent and necessary step. It is a defensive measure meant to deter aggression. The United States would argue that its sanctions target a corrupt government, not the Venezuelan people. The goal is to restore democracy. From the perspective of the Venezuelan government, the story looks very different. They see the United States as an imperialist power seeking control of Venezuela's vast oil reserves. They view U.S. actions not as promoting democracy, but as an attempt to overthrow a sovereign socialist government. They argue the economic crisis is caused by crippling U.S. sanctions designed to make the economy scream. From this viewpoint, F-35s are an act of aggression, a threat of military invasion. The Venezuelan government says alliances with Russia, China, and Iran are necessary defensive measures. Faced with a hostile superpower, they claim the right to seek any international support. They view U.S. forces in Puerto Rico as part of a long pattern of encirclement. For them, the F-35s on their doorstep are not diplomacy, they are a gun pointed at their head, confirming the narrative of a U.S. bully. The U.S. frames it as responsible leadership to prevent escalation, preferring diplomacy but retaining military capability to protect interests if necessary. Military drills with partners are framed as defense of sovereignty against an aggressive superpower attempting regime change. Both sides present compelling narratives based on their historical experiences and current threat perceptions. The reality is that decades of mistrust, failed policies, and conflicting interests have created a situation where both sides genuinely fear the other. Understanding both perspectives is crucial to grasping why this conflict seems so intractable and why the stakes continue to rise. With F-35s now based in Puerto Rico and tensions high, the situation is poised on a knife's edge. There are several possible paths this could take in the near future. One possibility is a de-escalation. The deployment could achieve its goal of sending a message and both sides could step back from the brink. This might involve quiet, back-channel diplomacy between United States and Venezuelan officials, possibly mediated by a neutral third country. If Venezuela tones down its military cooperation with Russia, China, and Iran and the United States sees a reduced threat, there might be a gradual reduction of the military posture. This is the most optimistic but perhaps not the most likely outcome. A more likely scenario is a prolonged period of heightened tension, a new Cold War in the Caribbean. The F-35s may remain in Puerto Rico for the foreseeable future as a permanent deterrent. Venezuela, in turn, may continue to strengthen its military ties with Russia, China, and Iran. We could see a tit-for-tat series of military moves. This would create a tense and unstable new normal for the region, where the risk of an accidental clash is always present. This state of limbo could last for months or even years, draining resources and creating uncertainty. A third, more dangerous possibility is further escalation. A miscalculation by either side could lead to a direct confrontation. This could be triggered by an incident at sea, in the air, or by a political event such as an internal crackdown in Venezuela. While a full-scale invasion is unlikely, a limited military strike or naval blockade are not out of the question if vital interests are threatened. This would have catastrophic consequences for Venezuela and the entire region. In summary, the deployment of F-35 jets to Puerto Rico is a serious and calculated move in a long and complex geopolitical struggle. It is a direct response to the situation in Venezuela and the involvement of global United States rivals in the Western Hemisphere. The move has significant impacts on Puerto Rico and the wider Caribbean, increasing both military presence and regional anxiety. The world is now watching to see what the next move will be in this high-stakes game of power and politics. Played out in the skies above the Caribbean,